Welcome everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2021. And today, wow, I am so excited. I am going to be continuing my leadership conversation series that I started last year. And it's been really great to connect with leaders, check in with how you guys are doing. And today I have Sarah Gershman, who is the president. She's the president of Green Room Speakers. Sarah, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you, Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very, very excited to have this conversation. Like always, I'm going to introduce myself and then Sarah. My name is Joyce, and I am the president of Rise Above Coaching. I'm an executive leadership coach as well. And again, I've been having these conversations with leaders to, just to have this, just to get their insights to inspire people. And today I'm joined with Sarah, as I mentioned, and she is actually an executive speech coach as well, with over 20 years of teaching and theater experience. She specializes actually in helping clients clarify their message in order to cultivate, stage presence and inspire the audience anywhere. And this could be from keynote addresses, briefing senior officials, even pitching a product. If somebody's trying to pitch something, she helps clients find their core message and make their message stick. She has worked with executives in Fortune 50 companies, government agencies, I know nonprofit organizations, including Microsoft, General Dynamics, national campaigns, the U.S. Department of Defense. Sarah, she does such great work. She's also an adjunct professor of communications at Georgetown. And yeah, because I went to Georgetown as well, great school. And she teaches communication for students all over the world. She has a master's in social work from Columbia University, a master's in Judaic studies in the Jewish Theological Seminary. And also she's a graduate of John Hopkins. So Sarah, I'm so excited to have you here today. And maybe you can begin by giving us a little background about yourself and maybe what inspires you at Green Room Speakers.
So thank you so much, Joyce, for that wonderful introduction. And I really started my work because I noticed a problem, which is that people tend to be very anxious and uncomfortable when they have to get up and speak to a group of people. And I wanted to try to see if I could help. And what I quickly discovered is that a major reason why people experience that anxiety is because they somehow feel judged by the audience. And so what I try to do is help people, instead of feeling like they have to impress the audience, to turn the energy and figure out how they can help the audience. And so, that's what I've been doing ever since. And now I'm really focused on doing that virtually, of course.
Wow, it's been an adjustment, huh?
Definitely.
So yeah, and and I love, if you have not gone to Sarah's website, please do so. One of the things on your recordings you talk about how when you're speaking, you want to make sure that everybody feels like you're actually talking to them rather than the audience. So I think that's such a unique approach, which I never thought about. But Sarah, here we are in 2021, and it's a new year, and I'm going to say this positively, hopefully a new beginnings for people. But there's still a lot of uncertainty and volatile, complex, and ambiguous issues that are going on. So for you, what are some of the self-awareness perspectives, even or as a leader, that you are actually bringing forth or welcoming in 2021?
So I love that you use the word self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've seen in this very difficult time is it's really, really hard for people to admit that they made a mistake. And it's we all know that we're imperfect, and we all know that that we're human, right? But it's really scary to own the fact that you screwed up.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I think as leaders that we can work on is really owning our mistakes, and being transparent about them, and learning from them, not running from them. We all in design thinking, right? It's all about learning from failure, and that's a huge topic of conversation in business now. Is setting situations up on purpose so that you fail, and that's how you grow. But as
Yes.
human beings, it's really hard to admit failure. And so I know for myself, that's something I continue to try to work on, because there's so many defenses that we just naturally put up, to avoid admitting that we made a mistake.
Yeah, and I think that's very powerful, especially in this time, as even like working from home and people are juggling so many things, and to be honest, you're right. I mean, we will make mistakes even, even as we're in this transition period. So yeah, I think that's a really powerful insight of just being able to own that and acknowledge it. And one of the things that you do, this is what you do. You love, having asked, showing people how to be present and make conversation. And for leaders, and I mean, obviously now, like the leaders are they're being asked to speak on behalf of the organizations. And we have known that they're conversational engines, and so they spend majority of their time, in conversation. And so it becomes very fundamental important for them. So what are some of the most important conversations that leaders must actually design, maybe as we are looking into 2021 or even in the future?
So I think I love again that you use that word conversations,
Hmm.
and I like it instead of the word messages. I guess in contrast to that word, because it implies that there's a dialogue and that
Yeah.
there's I say something and then I listen, and there's listening that's going on. And I think that one of the things fundamentally that leaders can do is turn their presenting into conversations.
Wow.
Is instead of giving information to somebody, to see it as a back and forth, and to make listening a key part of the conversation experience. So I think that mindset is very important right now, and
Yeah.
there's just no substitute for good listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. See, I coach, we do the executive coaching, and I think that is also one of the biggest things I've had to learn is to really listen. And I spend a lot of my time even, working with leaders, asking them, that's really the core piece of it, because it then becomes a dialogue. It's not like a one-way street, when you're actually listening, and even with me, with my two kids, I practice with them, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I know what they're gonna say, and I don't really listen, and my daughter checks me on that most of the time. So I think that's a really good insight that people should really hold on to. And then, I'm also a very big believer in the power of moments and how much our experiences impact the way we show up. And I preach, and I mean, as you're saying too, listening is one of the skills that people need and actually very important, but also the way you show up is also very important. So what are some of the insights that you can share with leaders about presence?
So the first thing I would say is just to define presence.
Hmm.
And like, what is it? Because it's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and is it? And I think there's different understandings of what it is. My definition of presence is simply the ability to be fully present. So it's the ability to be fully present with the person that you're talking to, or the people that
Hmm.
you're talking to, and then also with the message that you're delivering to that person. And so it's just being able to be actually in the moment that you're in. And when you're able to do that, all the other things that you want sort of flow from that. Like confidence comes from that, and stature comes from that. It all stems from, can you actually be present with the people that you're talking to, instead of in your own head, or
Yeah.
worried about something that happened in the past, or focused on what they're going to think about you in the future. And that's the key to being present.
Wow. Yeah, and I think that's very true, especially getting out of your own head. Is one of the skills that we coach on, because once that happens, you get hijacked. You hijack yourself, and then you're not fully present at all.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned this in the beginning of the conversations, but I'm also curious, what advice you give your clients when they feel that they have to be, clear and perfect about everything all the time. Because I mean, speeches, conversations, I mean, when you're delivering messages, I mean, I think it's important to be clear and perfect. But I mean, what advice do you give them when they stumble?
So I like to say that unlike writing, right, there's a big difference between speaking and writing.
Okay.
And that when you write something, it's actually not great if there's a mistake, right? You got to kind of edit and spell check and make sure that there's no glaring mistakes, because they can really hurt your reputation.
Yeah.
Speaking is really different.
Okay.
The goal of speaking is to connect with your audience, not to be perfect. And so if you
Mhm.
start with that premise that I'm here to connect with you, I'm here to help you, what do you need? What is at stake for you right now? If you go into it with that mindset, then suddenly, whether you're perfect or not, it's not an issue anymore. You're
Yeah.
not, because you're not focused on yourself and your own mistakes or lack thereof. You're focused on, did I actually help you get what you needed to get? And that's all that matters.
Wow. I'm gonna share this with a lot of the coaches because they will be like, "Ooh, that's what we've been talking about." Because at the end of the day, that's it. It's the impact. It's what I mean, how it lands on the other person rather than being perfect. And I mean, I think that is really, really good. And I'm asking that too because I go into that myself. I'm like, okay, I gotta be perfect and what I'm gonna say and everything. But I think I love the distinction you made about speaking and being perfect rather than writing. When you're actually writing, I think that's just fabulous. Wow, Sarah, this was really, really good. As we are wrapping up, and I thank you so much for those insights. And I've had a fantastic opportunity, by the way, to work with Sarah very early on in my career. Gosh, I don't even know. It's been a couple of years. We're not gonna date ourselves, but you inspired me when we were learning how to speak, and you were also coming in to do courses with some of the nonprofits that I worked with, and I've taken those, I've shared that, and that's also where we talk about, like, you just never know who you are inspiring. Sometimes we just think, oh, we just do these things and we don't know who we're inspiring. And I still remember Sarah from years, and I'm sure every single person around the world who has ever worked with Sarah can absolutely say that. So can you share, as we're closing, what are some of the universal gifts that you can encourage people to embrace as we look into the future?
It's a beautiful question. I
Mhm.
also want to say that, working with you, Joyce, was you were one of, when I really had just started my speech coaching company when you and I worked together. And uh, the nonprofit where we worked was one of my first clients. So it was a very foundational experience for me. And also your warmth and generosity and grace and insight, I never just treasure. So I'm really grateful that we've had this chance to reconnect. And in terms of your question about universal gifts, I think that I want to go back to what I said about listening,
Mhm.
because I think that our ability to quiet our internal chatter, which is no easy task, and actually just listen to somebody and just really hear them and push them to dig deeper, ask them questions, clarify, is one of the biggest gifts that you can give somebody, is to make them feel like they are the center of the world and to make them feel heard and that there's nothing more important right now than what they're saying. And it's really hard to do. And I struggle with this all the time. But I firmly believe that it is a huge gift that you can give people. Um, so, that's and the other one I just would end on,
Mhm.
is is laughter. I think that finding ways to make others laugh with others is uh, I think it's a deeply important part of our human experience.
Yeah.
It's healing. It's redemptive, and so I look for opportunities in my life to try to laugh.
I love that. I love laughing too. I'm always smiling. Sometimes people are like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so happy?" But I think, it's infectious. It is, it really
Mhm.
is, as you mentioned, it is infectious. I mean, and you really hit on it, 2 points, the listening. Even with, as we went through COVID, as we went through even the Black Lives Matter. I mean, I think people really saw the power of listening to other people's experiences and really listening. You don't have to fill in for stuff, just listen. And then that it is it. I mean, it's been so hard. So every time I get a chance to laugh, I am excited. I try to, enjoy myself, isn't as much as everything is going on. And really I appreciate the time we spent today, because this is what also makes me happy. And also to see leaders, like, yeah, they're humans too, and they could have a conversation and smile and, talk about their own self-awareness. So thank you so, so much, Sarah. And I know this is not the last time. I know we've reconnected, and I know we are going to continue to collaborate on each other. And I wish everyone a really, really positive year. And Sarah, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Joyce.